if there's a face to a brand, then it grows quicker. You have to operate the way the best people operate. I always aim to post daily. Before, it was an option. Now it's a necessity. It works for me. You don't have to hype yourself up to brush your teeth every single day to just reset my identity. The best content comes from actually doing something.
Grip the ball off me.
There's two types of people, cocaine and broccoli.
Lizzie Musa is a professional athlete sharing her passion for rugby under the name Rockstar Lizzie. With simple challenge videos, she got over 100,000 followers, multiple brand deals, and even got on TV.
Okay.
Go.
But then she took a break.
The end of last summer, I just kind of took a step back from everything.
In this episode, we talk about the link between quality and quantity, how she's able to read 100 books a year, and the value of mentorship. But first, let's find out how she got started.
There was just a lack of availability for women's rugby in media. So I didn't even know where to watch it as a player. I didn't know where to watch like full games. And so I thought, we can create a streaming app. I just thought we could do that. Just make one. And it was really expensive. And they said that if you can show there's a market for something, then you're more likely to get funding. So the easiest way for me at the time to show that there was a market for it was to start posting online about women's rugby to kind of grow that community. So I started the platform Rockstars. It was online, posted on Instagram, and then writing articles for the online magazine. I had someone writing for me as well. But then someone told me that if there's a face to a brand, then it grows quicker. So I called myself Rockstar Lizzie and then started posting rugby content.
And what kind of content did you post?
Yeah, it was just rugby challenges with the public. So it had the double-edged thing of, yes, it was fun content, but it was also introducing strangers to rugby. It was just to get rugby out there.
Where are you now with your social media presence?
So I've started posting again. I started also doing consulting at the same time. So posting on my own page, but also consulting with other people and kind of showing other people how to grow, because I feel like it's the future. Social media is here to stay now. Like before, it was an option. I think now it's a necessity if you want an idea to grow, if you want your business to grow, and if you just want to spread any message.
So that means you're back in the content game now. What does that look like?
So right now it will look like obviously Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, but also a lot of LinkedIn, because I'm actually I really like writing. So before all of this, I've kept a journal since I was 11. I did an internship at The Guardian in sports journalism. In the time that I stopped doing video, I started posting a lot of written content. And that's something that I feel like I could literally do for the rest of my life.
How is that different? Or why do you say that you could do that for the rest of your life?
Oh, I say this because I guess I say I could do this for the rest of my life because I've already done it for over a decade, writing most days. I just never published stuff. Whereas now, in the time that I took a break from everything else, I started posting on LinkedIn just because I hadn't really explored it. And I realized that that's quite sustainable for me in the fact that regardless of how much energy you have, you can still write. Well, I can still write. Whereas with video content, sometimes like there's so many things that go into video and so many potential limitations and things that need to be right for it to look as good as possible. Whereas there's nothing really that can stop you putting pen to paper or finger to keyboard digitally.
I started a newsletter last fall, and that's been the first thing I've really consistently been able to put out every single week. And somehow there's always an hour of time to write a newsletter. Not true for making videos. So I'm kind of curious, what does your, content schedule look like? Do you have any kind of schedule, or do you post stuff when things are ready?
Whenever I get back into something, to build momentum, I always aim to post daily just to build momentum. And then allow that to carry me forward. So right now, I want to be posting on Instagram daily. And then, for example, when I started writing on LinkedIn, I was posting like 3 to 5 times a day, which sounds ridiculous.
Wow.
Which it was. But it was to just get that muscle going. And I knew that I wasn't going to sustain that. It was just to become a LinkedIn writer, to almost change the identity inside myself, if that makes sense. Because if you're doing it that much in such a short period of time, you just understand that, okay, now I'll just post on LinkedIn. And now, even though I don't post 3 times a day now, I've just got the habit of posting. And if I haven't done it for a couple of days, well, I need to post something. because it just kind of reset something in my brain that, okay, now I need to keep posting.
So do you focus on one platform at a time?
To be fair, yes. I think whenever so for example, when I first started, I was focusing mostly on TikTok. And then I would post backup content to Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. So the same content that would go out there would just go after everything else. And now that I'm more in that
Hmm.
flow of it, I understand that when I post on the other platforms, it gives me more LinkedIn content. Oh, I did this today, or I did a podcast with Valentine today. So even though it was the other content that might have gotten me the opportunities, LinkedIn can document the journey of everything from the start to finish. So on LinkedIn, I discussed how I started growing on social media, how I partnered with certain brands, or the impact that social media can have on sport, or the importance of building a personal brand, or like so LinkedIn kind of can cover everything. Whereas Instagram, TikTok, you're only going to see sports content. Whereas LinkedIn, you'll see everything.
Huh. This is because I'm myself in a little bit of a moment of trying to figure out LinkedIn, and it's really interesting to hear like LinkedIn is for everything versus Instagram, TikTok is much more focused. I would have expected it to be the other way around, actually.
I get that, and it's so interesting. It's interesting because I'm at the stage where, okay, once I've gotten all these things moving, if I then started a YouTube channel, and I was having this conversation with someone yesterday,
Hmm.
literally yesterday, what would it be? Would it be the more overall content that I've been doing on LinkedIn, or would it be specific sports content? And that's actually a dichotomy here in my head that I'm still trying to figure out.
Hmm.
But you're right. I think a lot of people on LinkedIn like to be specific, like there'll be a top voice in a specific niche. Um, but the thing
Yeah.
that the reason I started writing on LinkedIn was because I just enjoy writing. And so I just write about general insights that I've noticed or patterns of behavior in certain industries um, so yeah, it was more, yes, it was for business, but also um, for my personal expression.
And do you feel like one platform is better than, or let me rephrase this. Which of these platforms do you think is best in creating opportunities for
Ooh,
you?
good question. Okay, in my personal experience, I've had opportunities slash brand deals on Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. In terms of opportunities, generally, LinkedIn has provided a lot of just general opportunities.
And so one thing that you mentioned is this like, I don't know, I'm just going to call it putting yourself in the zone where you just like focus on one thing and just like, I'm going to post on LinkedIn like 5 times a day. And then now you're going daily on Instagram and TikTok.
To rewire your brain. It works for
Hmm.
me. I know, like a lot of other people do the opposite. Would let's start like once a week and then build into daily. Whereas it doesn't work for me. It's like a period of intensity actually works for me to get into it before then going into something that's more sustainable.
Is that something that you've learned in your career as an athlete, or is that something that just has come out of your own
Mm.
experience?
Oh, maybe there could be. Maybe that could be the link there. Almost like a sprint block of training, and that changes the way you view everything. Like after COVID, for example, I stopped a lot of
Right.
training. A lot of people did, but getting back into the gym, I had a personal trainer, and for about a month, we trained every single day, every working day, so like five days a week, because it was enough to just reset my identity.
I like this mental model of resetting your identity. So many creators I know have like a lot of different aspects to them and a lot of different interests and 100 projects that they would love to do, but you all only ever can really do one project well. So maybe it's this
Mm,
idea of no, for the next 3 months or whatever, I'm the chief creative officer of this project, and then maybe you move on and
mm.
have a different intense phase.
I think ideally what you'd want though is like if you're getting a new habit, do it enough so that habit is now subconscious. So now you don't have to think about it. So then that's when you're usually ready to build to do something
Hmm.
else. Because if you think about it, like you don't have to hype yourself up to like brush your teeth. That's just you just brush your teeth every day. But there was a point where you had to learn to brush your teeth every day. Once that's like subconscious, like I don't even have to think. I can't remember the last time I consciously thought, "Oh, I need to brush my teeth today." I think it's the same with any other habit.
That is really fascinating for me to hear, right? Because last week I decided I'm going to be consistently uploading videos for the next 3 months.
Mhm.
I'm not a huge fan of consistency myself in terms of creating output. But I've observed myself, the people I follow, and my media behavior, and I had to acknowledge that like all the people I really have a strong connection with, they're just present. They do put out videos. Maybe it's not like the same day of every week, but like there is something, some piece of content I can connect with them every single week. And the other part of that equation is that I have enough content to to know that this is possible. Like I don't have the full 3 months yet, but there's enough already accessible that I can start building this momentum. But it's still, there's this tension in me of not wanting to be consistent, or feeling consistency is something that is detrimental to the creative process. So maybe you can help me figure this situation out and tell me why it is actually beneficial to be consistent with what you do.
Ooh, okay. And this makes me think of a study, and I can't remember who did the study. Can't remember any of the names, but I just remember the process and I remember the
Mm-hmm.
conclusion. And so it was an art professor, and they're trying to figure out like how to make better art and how to get the students to make better art. And they had split their students into two groups. One of them has to.
I
I
know the
think you
story.
recognize this
Yeah.
one already, right? You already know. One of them could only had they had the same amount of time, but in that time, one of them had to only make one piece
Yeah.
of art, and the rest of them had to just make as much as
Yeah.
possible, and then see who came out with the best, the best art at the end of it. And when all the art was compared, the art by the people that had more pieces of art to do was just way better than the ones that spent ages trying to get that one piece of art right. So consistency um, just leads to quality. They say only once you've done enough quantity can you then stop and take time to analyze stuff. And
Mm.
most people, I think anyway, are over analyzing too early in the learning curve. They haven't even gotten the reps in yet.
Okay, there's a lot of interesting insights actually, because yes, I know the story. I think everybody has heard that story at some point about the art
Yeah.
class. And what's ingrained in me is that I put quality over quantity. And I feel like, and
Mm.
because I've done stretches of time where I have been consistent, and it always felt like it becomes a chore really quickly, or like quality suffers just because I have to put something out for an artificial deadline that doesn't matter. Um, but the last insight I got out of this, what you just said, was I have trained my muscle. I've mastered the craft of filmmaking, of setting up cameras, like all the lights, cameras, sound, all that technical stuff is deeply ingrained in me and as a habit. I can do that blindfolded probably. But the rest of being on YouTube, of creating a social media presence, the thumbnails, the titles, the marketing, the I don't know, all the other things that play into that, actually I'm not that good, if I'm honest.
Again, I can't remember who made the quote. It's not me, but it says you need to be prolific before you can be profound. So the idea of just if you're writing regularly, you're going to become a better writer. Um, and then that's when the good writing will come, as opposed to just agonizing over every single word, because then you'll never write anything in the first place, and then it can't be profound. So you need to be prolific before you can be profound.
Putting in the reps to become good at something, I think that is something that is very clear in any physical activity. If you want to build muscles, you lift weights repeatedly,
Hmm.
and you're going to build muscles, right? There's
Hmm.
uh, I don't think you can argue with that. But I feel like I could make 100 videos, I could make 100 paintings, I could write 100 articles, and still have nothing to show for it, if that makes sense. Like they could still suck.
I mean, it depends if you're actually trying to improve it or if you're just going through the motions as
Hmm.
well. So it's like, okay, so if you've written one and then you write your next one, what are you doing to make this one better than the one you did before?
And that's exactly, I think, where support comes in, where a coach comes in, because evaluating yourself, a like again, like physical measurements there's a hard number, right? You can take, oh, I lost that much weight, or my biceps grew this much, or whatever. But like, I look at one drawing, I look at another drawing. I cannot judge which one is better. I have a lot of feelings about this, I'm sure, um, but there's no judgment of what is better, and even quantifying that is basically impossible. So how do you think about getting support, getting a coach?
I'm a big advocate for getting a coach. Very, very big advocate. I think maybe that comes from support
Mm-hmm.
as well. But I think it's also having the right person, the right coach. And I think what I used to do before, and I think this is what a lot of people do, is that you get advice from the people that are just around you. So maybe your friends or your family, colleagues or whatever. And they might not actually be the best people to give you advice on stuff. But now, and it sounds harsh, I stop going to people for advice who don't have experience in the thing that I'm asking them advice for. It completely changed the game. Because like you'll be asking your friend for relationship advice, but they've been single for years, or asking I'm serious, someone for advice for social media who's never used it, and these people are close to you, and it might be your friends, family,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But just think of it in the context of you're asking someone for advice on something they've never
Mm-hmm.
done. But I also, at the same time, what I've noticed is that top performers in any arena often have similar traits and similar viewpoints. So if they're like really high performing in something, it's still slightly better.
Mm-hmm.
um, so I've been around some creators with like millions and millions of followers, and the way that they look at content is completely different. Um, I've been around obviously some of the top, amazing, incredible athletes. The way they look at sport is completely different. And so what I've noticed is that like people who are at the top level of anything have a similar mindset. So you could probably learn how to be a top X from someone who is a top Y, if you know what I mean, just because of like a mindset that they have that allowed them to do really well.
Right. As long as they have mastered something, they have a new perspective. But tell me more about that. Who are you seeking out to help you with your
Oh,
online
okay.
presence?
Okay. I do have coaching from right now Sammy, and honestly, it's really incredible because he'll never like give you advice. He'll like just ask you questions so you can figure out the way to solve the
Yeah.
problem
Yeah.
yourself. And then I'm looking into like a content coach. I think with her it's more about accountability. So literally, she messaged the other day. She was like, "I haven't seen you post yet," and I was like, "Okay, look, I'm just deciding which one." I think that's even a thing as well, like just accountability. And to be fair, actually, aside from this, I think we'd be quite good accountability partners.
I mean, sure. My goal is to publish a video every Thursday. I haven't decided on a time yet. But if you don't
Hmm.
see a video, yeah, shoot me a text.
Okay, cool. So now we're
Yeah.
accountability partners. I've done this a lot for my friends and stuff as well. Like if they say, "Okay, I'm trying to do this thing," and I'm not seeing the behavior to match, I'm like, "Hey, I thought you said you're trying to do this." It'll be annoying, but you want that. You
Mm-hmm.
want people around you like that. Um, to be fair, I always use the analogy of cocaine and broccoli. Like there's two types of people, and it sounds
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
me out.
I'm excited for that.
So you've got like cocaine type
Okay.
people, like are really fun to be around, but they'll mess your life up long term.
Mm.
So people that will make like you make worse decisions around these people. They might tell you what you want to hear but not need to
Mm-hmm.
hear. Um, that kind of thing. And then you've got broccoli people, and broccoli doesn't always taste good, but it's good for you long term. So the broccoli people are the ones that hold you accountable, the ones that are honest with you, that tell you the harsh truths that you need to hear, that often make you a better person. But sometimes it's just tough to be. So cocaine and broccoli. And I'm sure there must be like an in between of someone that's, nice but also good for you. Maybe like a mango. But I find more people fit into cocaine or broccoli.
I'd never heard anything like this, but I really, really like this analogy. I think I can work with it. So you said you have two coaches now, or
Let's say I've got one coach that I'm currently, we're on
okay.
session 3.
And what is he helping you with?
The business and the content, because he's done both. But it's more like, and this is what I was telling you, we were talking about mindset
Mm-hmm.
before, but he just kind of challenges challenges my beliefs about a lot of stuff. So, for example, the other week, I decided to host a webinar for the first time, and then I was just discussing it with him, and he had made the plan, and he'd said to me, "So, looking at your plan that you have for the webinar and the structure, is there anything that you could do to make this better? Like, what could you do to make this the most entertaining webinar possible?" And I was like, Because at the time, I just had like a slide deck. I was just going to talk over the slide deck. And then I thought, actually, what stuff do I like to watch? And whenever I watch educational content, I love it when they have whiteboards. So I was like, oh, forget the slide deck. I need a whiteboard. Because that's what I never go on YouTube or web and watch people that have present, like just decks. Like, I always watch people with, with those flip charts or whiteboards. So then I've literally got it right here as well. So then I scrapped the deck, literally didn't stopped it, and focused on making a whiteboard based presentation. And that's changed everything.
So you think talking it out loud with a coach and getting a new perspective is what helps you get those insights?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong, I get insights for things throughout the day. But that specific question at that specific time was exactly what I needed to just transform that webinar. And it was fun. I have to say, it was down to having a coach.
Do you have any other people that help you with your whole content pipeline, or are you doing stuff by yourself?
So I hired a virtual assistant last week, and that's quite freeing, actually. It's like, oh, okay, just things just get done.
What do they do?
So initially, the first few tasks that I said to her was, I've started another TikTok account with compilation videos. So I just asked her to download a lot of my other content and put it into compilations to put it on that TikTok account. I also get her to start, because I like doing book reviews on LinkedIn as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do, also I read the book, then I take the notes, and then I've been going on Canva designing these carousels based on the books that I read. But it actually can be quite time consuming. But I'm like, okay, what if I read the book, took down notes, and then just gave the notes to her to create the carousels for me? So that'll be what she'll be working on, and then I can just be producing more, because I've got a ton. I've read like 53 books this year
Already. So wait, you read like 2 books a week or so?
Roughly, yeah. I'm aiming for, so last year, I can show you my Kindle. Last year I probably read about 70, and I'm aiming for 100 this year. So literally I read a lot. Don't watch TV. And if I'm on the way to somewhere, I'll read. On the bus, train, plane, I'll read. And where I don't know, I work from home a lot as well. So I just have, I don't know, I'm just in control of my own time. So I'll make sure I'll read often in the morning or in the evening. I don't know.
But like, you just, from what I hear is that you prioritize reading over any other media. You're not swiping TikTok.
Yeah, I don't even scroll on TikTok. I don't get high on my own supply. So I don't use social media that much for consumption.
But yet you are building like a platform, right? You're putting yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
How do those two things go together?
I don't see the connection. I see what you're saying. You're saying, how do you know what to post if you're not looking at other people's posts? That's kind of what you're saying. And a lot of people will say, so how do you know, but then, and I think this also this compares to sport and stuff as well. Whereas I've noticed like a lot of, this is going to sound bad. This is going to sound really bad when I say it, actually. Usain Bolt isn't looking at any other athlete. All the athletes are looking at him to see, what's he doing? Whereas he's not even looking, he's just focusing on what he can do. And I'm not saying I am him, but if I wanted to be the best person possible, you have to operate the way the best people operate. And they're not looking left and right, really. They just focus on what they need to do. And unless they address, okay, cool, I have maybe a weakness here, I want to double down on this strength here, who can I go to for that specific thing?
But then maybe let's make it more specific. Like the format that you have where you hold the rugby ball and let people take it from you. Where did this come from? Yeah.
So I really liked freestyle football. I liked watching freestyle football. So I was like, there's no freestyle rugby. And so I just started playing around with rugby. And then I made those challenge videos to see if other people could do kick-ups with the rugby ball, because I saw that it was harder. But when I was doing the challenges, I would hold the ball and talk with my hands moving up and down like this. And I remember someone commented and said, "Oh, how does she just hold the ball in one hand?" Like, it was just a comment, and I remember thinking, "Huh, is this weird? Is this a hard thing to do?" So I was just playing around with it. I remember going to I think it was like my brother or someone at the time was like, "Hey, try and just take that," and they couldn't do it, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So then I
Ah.
started to just that became that video idea to challenge different people to see if they could actually take it, and then people couldn't take it. So that kind of built actually from a comment um, that highlighted to me that I have this weird grip
Mm.
strength.
And it came out of a
But in
real
terms
life
of,
experience that translated into content.
yeah, I guess the best content comes from actually doing something and then somehow and documenting or learning something from doing something and then documenting that.
What does success mean to you, or where are you taking all of this?
For me, it's all impact because when I think in sport, and in both in life in general, there's always things that I would like to have learnt sooner, but no one was there to like give advice. So, like I said, I was telling you, I got advice from people without the
Hmm.
experience. So in sport, for example, I got a lot of opportunities, especially when I was younger, that I didn't take because I didn't have someone to advise me left, right, And so I'd love to show people kind of what's possible or like promote that. And the app, I still really want to go into streaming on that front. And then obviously with the writing, it's just documenting things that I'm learning to make it easier for the next person. I just really like the idea of making it easier for that next person. And so both of those things are obviously through the LinkedIn, posting a lot of written content, and then through the video, and connecting with sports platforms. So streaming and publishing are, I guess, the big goals, the big
Mm.
pillars.
And so, talking about streaming and publishing and putting yourself out there, if you think about this person who is watching this, who's sitting at home, who have the desire to share something but haven't taken the first step, or have maybe dabbled with it but never found consistency, what would you tell that person?
Like, just do it.
Is it simple as that?
Uh, yeah. Or I'd say joining a community is probably an easy way of doing it too. I think you've got a
I
community,
do,
no?
I do. Yeah, the community aspect is growing and growing every day, and I hope to announce something publicly about that soon. If people now really want to know what you're up to, what's the best way to find you? What's the best way to stay in your orbit?
Oh, I love that. Stay in your orbit because you're called Orbit, right? So yeah, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Rockstar Lizzie, and see on LinkedIn as well.
And if you want to dive deeper, you can get extended versions of all these conversations as audio-only podcasts. And the first step to joining our community is signing up for the Orbit newsletter, a weekly transmission full of curated content that helps you take the next step on your creator journey. But now it's time to create.